What is going on, guys? It is Colin Boesch. I am the owner and operator of Engineered Training Method, and I am here today to break down the Backland Games. So let's get into it a little bit. All right, I'll start with number one. I really like these workouts. If I had the opportunity, I would also be there competing as well, but I figured that I would talk about it a little bit and break down exactly how I think somebody's going to win the Backland Games, or what it's going to take for somebody to win the Backland Games. Okay? So, breakdown. We got event number one. Event number one is called Gym Class Hero. It is shuttle sprints and bench press. I can see why they called it Gym Class Hero, because it's very, how I would describe, football-y. You can kind of tell that they were focusing on a little bit of some combine stuff when they made this workout, because we've got shuttle sprints of 25 yards into 50 yards into 75 yards, and then in the remaining time, max bench press with some dumbbells. So how I would run this is, because this is a partner competition, I would start with the guy running the first shuttle sprint. And that way that he would start on the bench, because you have to switch every shuttle sprint. There are 4 300-yard shuttle runs into max dumbbell bench press in the remaining time with a 6-minute total time cap. So guy runs first, 25, 50, 75. Then the lady, she does hers. Then the guy, then the lady again. That way, on that last shuttle run for the lady, he's already on the bench and getting set up with the dumbbells as fast as he can. Based on just like some basic math and some testing myself, I think that those shuttles are probably going to get done in 35 to 45 seconds per shuttle. So that'll leave us about 2 to 3 minutes on the bench. Now, there are some absolute animals out there, especially in the RX division with the 50 and the 35-pound dumbbells. So I do think that a top score on this one is going to be in the 80-plus range, especially in the RX division. Elite being the 70 to 50-pound dumbbells, I think we might see some scores that are a little bit less than that, just because of the burnout with 2 to 3 straight minutes of bench press. Even if the guy gets on and does a massive set to start, and then the lady comes in and gives him a quick break to do whatever he needs to do to flush his arms, I do think that there's still going to be a lot of built-up fatigue quickly, especially at the elite division. So I think elite is probably looking at like maybe 60-plus reps to win the event, and then I think for RX, it's going to be like 80-plus reps to win the event. So, I mean, we're looking at, in a couple minutes here, 50 dumbbell bench press for the guys and maybe 30-ish for the ladies. So that's 25 a minute for the guys. In theory, if you're going at full speed, probably about 30 seconds. And then about 15 per minute for the ladies. Once again, at speed, probably looking at 20-ish to 25 seconds there. So depending on how fast we can transition, I do think that 70 to 80 reps is most likely going to be a top score. I would say make sure that we are focusing on the transitions, obviously. Stay close and make sure that your footwork is good. I would assume that the 35-pound dumbbells will be on one end of the bench and the 50-pound dumbbells will be on the other end of the bench. Same with the 70s and 50s. So as soon as the guy gets up, the lady should be able to sit down and start grabbing her dumbbells immediately. Or as soon as the guy sits up, the lady should be sitting down on the other side to make sure that they are getting as much time on that bench as possible. Event 2, we've got late for class, 4 rounds for time, 400-meter run together, 10 synchro sandbag squats, and then a 50-yard sandbag carry. And the 50-yard caught me off guard a little bit earlier, but we'll kind of go over that here in a second. So number one, none of the standards say that we are holding a rope. So I think that together probably means that we're just running 400 meters at roughly the same time, or we can go out on the 400-meter loop at roughly the same time. Whether this is at a track or a trail run, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think that it's a trail run, because I do think that they would tell us that it's a trail run. And then for the sandbag, we've got 150 for guys in elite, 100 for ladies. For RX, 175, and then for intermediate, a 70 and 50 feed sack. I would say that this one is probably going to come down to your run speed. I mean, most run workouts do, to be honest with you. There are going to be people who can run 400-meter repeats in 1:30 to 1:35, which means they're going to be fast. Depending on how familiar you are with each other, I do think that the sandbag squats probably get done in about 15 to 20 seconds. And then a 50-yard carry, which is 150 feet, is probably, I mean, we're looking at like 50 feet in about 20 seconds or so. If you're doing that in your gym, just 25 feet down and back is is pretty quick. We can do that pretty dang fast. I would say I know that I've done 50 foot in 15 seconds. So I mean, if we're sprinting there, we could probably get done in 15 seconds per 50 feet. But especially because it's a straight line and that's without a turn, I would assume that they're going to do the 50 yards straight, not turning at any point. So that'll be even faster. So maybe like 13 to 15 seconds. But let's say that here for the sake of clarity that we're going to do 50 feet in 20 seconds, which in actuality then would mean that our 150-foot carry, which I would assume both partners have to do. I would not assume that you guys have to split that up by any means. I would assume that the lady will carry hers and that the guy will carry his, because it'll probably be down every round. They'll probably go 150 feet down, and then when you get back, 150 feet back the other way, and then 150 foot down, and then 150 foot back the other way. So I'm assuming that both partners will have to carry their sandbags the full 150 feet or the whole full 50 yards. So if we're looking at that on the fast end with the 130 runs, about 15-ish seconds per 10 synchro squats, because I would suggest that the faster squatter be watching the slower squatter. You should know which one of the two of you that is beforehand, and if you don't, I would test it. But the faster squatter should be watching the slower squatter, because you're probably going to have to be at the bottom at the same time or at the top at the same time, depending on it. So I would make sure that the faster squatter or the stronger legs most likely going to be the guy, but not always the case. Definitely not always the case, especially with the difference in bag weights, obviously. So make sure that the slower squatter is on their own and the faster squatter is watching them. And then I would just let the slower squatter go. Like, just do what you can do, and I will keep up with you, basically, if I'm the faster squatter. So anyway, looking at a low per round time, meaning a fast per round time, we're probably at like 230 per round. A slower, so more of an average pace per round time, is probably about a 330 round. So in theory, a top score is most likely going to be 10 to 12 minutes, and an average score, or what we'll see most people land, is probably going to be about 14 to 16 minutes. But I do think that somebody will probably win with like a 10-15, 10-30 score. I think that that's going to be the best score that we see. Event 3, I would say high rocks, but let's make it CrossFit. It's called advanced placement. It's a 4-time, 350-foot hand-over-hand sled pull and a 350-foot handstand walk for elite, 350-foot burpee broad jump for RX intermediate. So no handstand walking for RX intermediate athletes. I would assume that this is going to be in just one straight line. So you'll sled pull down and broad jump back or handstand walk back. A 45-foot sled pull, depending on the weight, takes us roughly like 30 seconds to a minute. Like I said, it kind of depends on the weight. As far as I can tell, they have not said anything about a weight at all on the event, on the Instagram page that announced the event, or on Competition Corner. So depending on the weight, could be anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. You have to switch every 45 feet. That's 8 lengths. So that's 4 lengths per partner. So we're looking at like 6 to 8-ish minutes there, depending on how fast you can get that done. Obviously, like if it's 1 minute per length, then we're going to go with 8 minutes. Or if it's faster than that, meaning a lighter sled, then we'll go faster than that. But I would assume that for roughly a 50-foot sled pull that we won't need more than a minute. I don't think that they would allow that, mostly because the time cap is 15 minutes. So you're thinking that they probably tested this like a sub 7:30 time on the pull, just because that would be half the amount of time of the time cap. And then handstand walk, if you're in the elite division, I would say that your better handstand walker goes first, which means that they would then pull first. They would be the first one on the sled pull, and that would cause them, because there's an even amount, I would assume, at 8 lengths, that would cause them to pull second to last. They would not pull last, which means they would get the last pull to rest, in theory, and then be able to handstand walk for however far they can get in that first set. And then for a burpee broad jumper, you're looking at roughly 3 to 4-ish feet per burpee broad jump, which if you break down 350 feet, that's like 115 burpees. So 100 burpees typically takes us, or should take us, between 5 and 6 minutes. Some of us might be faster, some of us might be slower, but I'm assuming that we'll probably need about 100 burpees or so, probably maybe a little bit more, to get through that burpee broad jump, which means that we should be aiming for about the 5-ish to 6-ish minutes, because that broad jump is in theory going to take us slightly more time than just jumping and clapping. I do think that depending on how they allow us to do this, I would suggest alternating reps, meaning that one person burpee broad jumps and then they follow the next person burpee broad jumps. I don't know exactly what the case is going to be for like the first person getting out of the way, or what the standard is going to be on that. So I'm not sure if that's a viable option, but I would probably suggest keeping the rep count low on this, meaning like 3 to 4 to maybe 5 or 6 in a row for one person and then switching, just because it seems like you're going to want to be able to get the max out of that broad jump every time, and that is going to go quicker. Max repeatable broad jump is going to end up burning out, I think, faster than a lot of people realize, especially if they haven't tried a high rocks. So either I would do bigger sets and not go to a full max broad jump, or I would do smaller sets and try to really maximize the jump, because the workout is finished when you finish the 350 feet. It's not necessarily like reps for time or anything like that. So it doesn't matter if you do, 90 reps or 130 reps on the burpee broad jump. It's just how fast you get through that 350. So I would either suggest faster burpees with shorter broad jumps, or a slightly longer burpee with a more max effort broad jump, but then shorter like total sets, so that you're switching with your partner more often to keep that more fresh. I would definitely practice that beforehand. Event 4. The hundreds, also known as perfect score. 100 calories on the row and bike simultaneously. For elite, it is 100 burpee box jump overs. For RX, it is just box jump overs. And then we've got another 100 cal row on the bike. 100 cal row and 100 cal bike simultaneously. And then we finish with 100 double dumbbell thrusters. Elite is the 50 pounders for guys and 35 pounders for ladies. And then RX is the 35s for guys and 25s for ladies. Once again, this one comes down to the guys, because the guys are going to be the one that gets the most calories on the bike for the most part. Unless you have an absolute beast as a lady, most likely the guys are going to be able to produce more power on the Echo bike. And that's probably what's going to take the longest of the two machines. So you're going to want your male partner on the bike for longer than the female partner. But I would still suggest going off the female partner calories to understand like when you're going to switch. I think a good split is probably between like 20 or 25 cals for the ladies and then 10 cals on the bike for the ladies. So like once the lady finishes the 25 cals on the row, they switch. Once the lady finishes 10 cals on the bike, you switch. I think that'll get us done the fastest there, just because the guys are going to have to produce more power on the bike, and they're going to be able to get a lot more done in the span of time that the lady is doing the 25 calories. Whereas the row, while it being shorter for the guy, it's going to take the lady longer to get 10 cals done than it would for the guy to get 10 cals done. So I think that maintaining a consistent set there and not having the guy overly burn out on the row, but really letting him cook on the bike is probably going to be what gets through that the fastest. I don't necessarily know that it's going to feel the best, because it's probably not, but it's probably what's going to get you guys through that fastest. Then I would suggest that if the guy finishes on the bike, which he should, the lady starts as fast as she can on the box jump overs and / or burpee box jump overs with a big set, because you're going to want to give your guy time to recover after he finishes on the bike. Now, whether that's, I would suggest probably like 20 plus reps, maybe 15 to 20 reps for the box jump over. Whether that's like 12 to 15 reps for the burpee box jump over is a little bit different, because that kind of changes the movement entirely, adding that press in the burpee, especially after already doing, well, they won't be doing burpees, broad jumps, because in elite, you're doing handstand walk, so you won't have a double burpee movement there. Hence why they took the burpees away from the RX and intermediate division on that workout and just made it box jump overs. I do think that RX will most likely go faster on this. I think a good RX score is probably going to be between like 18 and 21. I think a good elite score is probably going to be like 21 to 22, somewhere in that range, just because 100 box jump overs and 100 burpee box jump overs are a very different movement. So I still suggest after the first round of getting off the row and the bike to have the lady do a big set on the box, just because you want to be able to let that guy recover as much as he can. And there shouldn't really be that much of a speed difference between the guy and the girl going through their burpee box jump overs and box jump overs. In theory, depending on how fast the footwork is for that lady, she should be able to get through box jump overs faster than he can. So being able to get through like some bigger sets for the lady is going to be key there to finishing, because then you obviously have to get back on the row and bike again for a second set, in which, once again, if you want to get through it in a decent amount of time, you're going to have to let that guy cook on the bike. So cooking on the bike for another 100 calories is definitely going to burn, especially going into then finishing with 100 thrusters. I would suggest, if you know what your like 100% is on a bike, guys, if you know what your 100% is on a bike, so maybe like if you've done 10-second sprints or something like that and seen your cadence get up to like 105 or 110 or whatever it is, I would take roughly 70% of that and maybe even like 65 to 70% of that, and that be where you sit for your 100 cals if you want to get through this and still be able to maintain some semblance of being able to move after 100 cals. I would suggest sitting right around like 70-ish to 72-ish% of your max cadence on an Echo bike in order to get through this with a decent amount of time. I think the RX is kind of light with the dumbbell thrusters. So once again, guys finishing with the 35s, I know it's after 200 cal bike, but guys should probably be finishing the 100 thrusters as well, just because of how light it is. And then, like I said, a good score I think for the RX division is going to be, we might see like a 1730. I don't think people are going to get much faster than 1730. I would say like the top score being right around 18 to 21 minutes is most likely the case. And then for the elite division being around 21 to 22:30, I think is probably going to be what the top score is there. Then event 5 is the deadlift, after school lift, 4-rep dead stop deadlift. This one's pretty straightforward. Hopefully you guys have tested your 4-rep or 3-rep deadlift with a dead stop prior to the event. And then we're trying to add like 2 to 5% to whatever that number was because it's game day. So hopefully they give us 2 or 3 attempts there. It just says that the rep must be completed within a 20-second window, which kind of also lends me to my next thing, is that I want you to try and relax your hands as much as possible at the bottom. I don't know what the call is going to be and if they let you release the bar or not, or if your hands are just touching the bar, but your fingers can be released. Typically, your grip blowing up on a deadlift is extremely detrimental. That should be pretty obvious. So if you're struggling to hit that like second or third rep because your fingers are slipping, relaxing the hands for an extra second at the bottom and then retightening is going to be better than white knuckling the bar the entire time. Depending on what the standard is or what they say in the moment, I think that it would probably be, or in most cases, it's probably going to be that we just need to keep our hands in the bar. We can relax the fingers, and we just need to get that lift done in 20 seconds. So getting that done in 20 seconds should be more than doable with relaxing the fingers for a second or two before we pull again. I mean, that's 5 seconds per lift. I don't think that should have any issue with maintaining grip, especially because the first rep and second rep will most likely go faster, and then you'll need the grip release on the 3rd/4th rep. And then finally, event 6, assigned partners is the name. It is Isabel into chest to bar, and then chest to bar into Grace. For elite, it is literally Isabel into chest to bars, but it's 60 chest to bar, so it's double, and then 60 chest to bar into Grace. For RX, it is 30 snatches at 115, and then chest to bar is only 40 reps, and then same thing, 40 reps, and then Grace at 115 for the second half there, 115.85. They really like to, they're trying to blow your grip up inside here at the end. Obviously, we just saw heavy deadlift, and I just talked about grip, and now this workout, I'm pretty much going to talk about the exact same thing. It's also very grip heavy, so making sure that we can mitigate that grip fatigue as much as possible is going to be key. I would say that we don't want to see a PR Isabel or Grace, even if it's on that lightweight. I mean, like a good Isabel Grace time is going to be between 1 and 2 minutes. Now, we're not games athletes, so it's most likely not going to be a minute, and it's most likely not going to be unbroken, and that's okay. But I would suggest definitely not PRing your Grace or Isabel in this workout by any means, because obviously you have chest to bar pull-ups to go along with it. It is not just Grace and Isabel, even if it is at a slightly lighter weight in the RX division. It's not a slightly lighter weight in the elite division, and it's double the amount of reps on the chest to bar. So we're literally just hanging onto a bar for dear life the majority of this workout. I think those chest to bar are probably going to be broken up more than you think. I think a good score on this workout is going to be right around sub 5 per partner, so like 4:45-ish to 5 minutes per partner. And it's going to be tight because this is going to be tight because there's not a lot of like room for error here. So those of us who are really put together with our snatch cycling, clean and jerk cycling, and then chest to bar cycling are going to do really well. But I think like a good score is going to be about 4:45 per partner, which would lend itself to about 9:30 to 10:30 for the total with a 15-minute cap. I think that the chest to bar are probably going to be broken up more than you think, especially the Isabel chest to bar. Going from Isabel into 60 or 40 chest to bar, you can probably break those up more often because what you don't want is to hit your set of 20 to 25 and then absolutely blow up on the back 15 and not be able to do more than 2 to 3 at a time. I would suggest like going like 8 or 10 and breaking them up into smooth, controllable sets, as long as your transition back onto the pull-up bar isn't ridiculously long. Making sure that we're not like walking around or walking backwards or really even walking away from that pull-up bar in general is going to be key to maintaining a good cadence overall on this workout. And then it's kind of the backwards way for the chest to bar Grace. I would suggest breaking it up because you have to do Grace afterward. I would probably shoot for like 10, 12 on the back half just because it's chest to bar first and you're going to be more excited. And that's the only work that you're going to have to get done. Because in theory, then, once we get into Grace, we can probably hang on for a touch and go set of like 5. And then if we want, maybe a set of 2 or 3. And then it's going to be singles from there. So it's really who is the most on their barbell over the course of those singles that's going to win this workout. and/or win that grace section. I guess it kind of depends on how fast your first partner is in Isabel and chest to bar. But I do think that grace section comes down to who's going to have the fastest singles, because the grip is going to be more blown up than in a normal grace for those clean and jerks there. But I think each partner going right around like 4:45 to 5 minutes is most likely going to be the top time for both Elite and RX. So we're looking at like a 9:30 to 10:30 total time there, as long as there's not a lot of transition between the Isabel partner and the Grace partner, which there shouldn't be. As soon as the partner finishes chest to bar, the other partner should be able to start their chest to bar. Yeah, 9:30 to 10:30 is going to win. I think the chest to bar can be broken up more than you think. However, the winners will break it up the least. Whoever has the best grip strength and lat endurance is probably going to win this, unless their barbell cycling is the worst we've ever seen. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. If any of this resonated with you, or you feel like you want more information, please reach out to me either on YouTube messaging, a comment, or DM me the word ready at Engineered Training Method on Instagram. And I would be happy to have a conversation, not only about Backland Games, but about coaching in general, or competition prep in general. If you have any questions, or if any of this made too much sense, by all means, shoot me a message. Thanks, guys.